Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is not Jason Kmet, it's Scott Strasser, and my co-host is Jason Kmet, not Scott Strasser. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Scott, how's it going tonight?
Good. We thought we would change it up and I would do the intro because it is a special milestone episode, and the last time we had a similar milestone episode, I did the intro, and I think that was the only other time I've done it.
You could be right on that. Anyway, it is episode 200. We started in March 2023, and here we are, August 2026, 200 episodes in. So congrats to us, right?
Congratulations to us, and excited to do the next 200. This has been a lot of fun these last few years, and I think, it has garnered a loyal following, I would hope. So I hope people enjoy this podcast, and kudos to you, Jason. You put a lot of work in to put a lot of these episodes together, these interviews and everything. So great work on that front. And why don't we get things going for episode 200?
Sounds good.
I guess before we get into our first segment of the episode, I guess we can reiterate what exactly the podcast is all about in case someone is tuning in for the first time. So, Jason, you usually ask me this, but this time I'll ask you, what is the YYC Soccer Podcast all about?
Well, Scott, we focus on soccer in Calgary at the amateur, collegiate, and professional levels. We talk about pro teams, we talk about the post-secondary teams, top amateur teams, everything from the grassroots on up. As long as it's Calgary related, we try to touch on it in our episodes.
Absolutely. And this episode will include pretty much all of what you mentioned. We have previews for both Cavalry FC and the Calgary Wild, those being the city's two professional teams. They're both in action against opponents from the same city this weekend. And we finally get to talk about some post-secondary soccer. It got going this afternoon, the U Sports Canada West season with the Crowchild Classic between the University of Calgary Dinos and Mount Royal University Cougars. But we also are going to preview the collegiate division, the ACAC South. We can talk about the PDP Championships. We have some local soccer infrastructure to discuss. And we usually have one interview per week, Jason, but this week, special 200th episode, we decided to get more than one interview in.
Yeah, we've got two interviews this week. We have from the Calgary Dinos men's team, we've got Joey Plenzik. And from the SAIT women's team, we have head coach Jess Whyte and veteran player Amy Fallows. So yeah, it's just especially because it's our 200th episode, or maybe it was just a coincidence.
Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But actually, if you think about it, we got 3 guests on the podcast since we interviewed Jess and Amy together. But we will run those interviews in a couple of minutes. Should note that, understandably, the Joey Plenzik interview took place before this afternoon's Crowchild Classic. So he can't talk about that result because it hadn't happened yet. But before we run those interviews, Jason, why don't we kick things off with preview of the professional teams?
Sure. Let's talk about Cavalry FC.
Hi, everyone. This is Nate Edwards. You're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right. So Cavalry FC are at home this Saturday. They're hosting Vancouver FC at Spruce Meadows. Kickoff is at 3 p.m. Game is on CBC Gem as well as One Soccer or Fubo. One Soccer, Jason, was speculating that this could be a preview of an upcoming playoff game, which is definitely feasible. Both of these teams do appear to be playoff bound. Cavalry coming in on a very good run of recent form, 5 games unbeaten, second place at the moment, just behind Forge FC. Vancouver FC, 4th place, probably their best ever season as a club in the CPL. 27 points on 19 matches, just 3 points back of Atletico Ottawa, who are in 3rd. So big game for Vancouver. And, I think every game for Cavalry from here on out is going to be considered a big game because they're chasing the CPL Shield and they're going to have to win as many points as they can to hoist that trophy this year, considering how Forge has done.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. It's going to be a dogfight with Forge right to the end. There will be the one final matchup between those two clubs at Spruce Meadows, but it may come down to that, but it may also be just dropping points in an unexpected place might give the other team the shield. So yeah, big from that point of view. We always know that Vancouver seems to play Cavalry really tough. Martin Nash always seems to come up with a good game plan to stymie Cavalry to a point. So I would expect it to be a good match overall.
Yeah, Vancouver has been playing really well as of late. I think, did they lose their last game though against, was it Atletico last week, midweek?
They did, yes.
They did. So smarting from that one a little bit, but coming off of their first win against Cavalry in club history back in July when they beat the Cavs in Langley 1-0. The other meeting between these two teams this year was a 2-0 win for Cavalry. Historically, Cavalry has dominated the series against Vancouver FC, but as you mentioned, a lot of draws, particularly in the last couple of years, because Martin Nash, former Cavalry assistant coach, always seems to produce a strong performance from his players whenever these two teams play.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is the third and final match of Cavalry's August homestand at Spruce Meadows, and it's the first one I'm going to get to see in person. So I'm quite looking forward to it.
Me too.
Hi, this is Tegan Stewart. You're listening to YYC Soccer Podcast.
So let's talk about the Calgary Wild. They also are playing a Vancouver team. They're heading out to Vancouver to play the Rise. This match will be Saturday at 4 p.m. at Swangard Stadium, and it'll be on TSN if you're interested in tuning in.
Yeah, I'm very keen to see how the Wild do against a club that is closest to them in the Northern Super League standings. Wild currently in the best form of their season, 4 games without a loss, 3 of those in the NSL, and 2 of those opponents that they've got points against, Jason, top of the table, right? If you think about Ottawa and Montreal. So the last time they played Vancouver, not that long ago, I think it was early August actually, and this is arguably the game that kickstarted their, well, no, I guess they had the cup game right before this that kickstarted their good run of form, but that win against Vancouver really changed the tone in the Wild camp, and since then they've just looked like really confident. But it was that win in Vancouver at Swangard, that late goal from Jorian Balcom, that things have really been different since then.
I have to tell you, though, I'm a little bit annoyed with the NSL website, Scott. They had been really good about putting player availability on their website, but it seems like the last 2 weeks they've decided not to update it. So we were kind of a bit struggling to figure out who's going to be available for this game or not.
Yeah, because there was, we haven't seen Maggie Doherty-Howard for quite some time. We know Maya Jones missed the last game with injury. And I guess, Jason, you had to go to the club itself to find out if they would be playing this weekend, and you heard that they will not be.
Yeah, I did check in with the Wild, and they got back to me right away and verified that Maya Jones and Maggie Doherty-Howard will not be available for this weekend's match. The other bit of roster news, which could be relevant and surprisingly unclear, Tegan Stewart has been named to the Canada Women's U20 World Cup roster, kind of.
She's an alternate or something?
Yeah, she's an alternate. So I'm not completely sure what that means, because there's been social media posts saying that she's on the team. And my understanding is the team is getting together like now in Poland. So at the same time, I reached out to the club and asked them, like, so she's an alternate. Did she go or what happened? And they said that they don't have all the information yet. So I guess it's going to be a little bit of a surprise to see whether she's at the game on Saturday or not. If she is, I guess that means that they don't need her as an alternate to fill in for someone else. But if she's not there, I guess she's probably off to Poland, and she'll be gone for a good couple weeks, right? Because matches in that don't start until next week. And then they're in a group with, they play round robin, 3 matches.
Yeah, and that's a big loss for the Wild, because Tegan Stewart has been one of their best players in these last 4 games that they have gotten positive results in.
Yeah, she scored a couple penalties, and yeah, she's been playing really well. She's been the only player that really has stepped up specifically in that position, in Maggie Doherty-Howard's position when she's been injured. In previous matches when Maggie was out of the lineup, there didn't really seem like there was anyone who really took that role on, but she's done a very admirable job on that the last several games.
And actually, Jason, I do want to correct myself. I think I said that Vancouver were the closest team to Calgary in the standings, but they're actually in 4th place at the moment, 22 points on 17 games. The Wild are on 9 points. Halifax is on 21 points. So 12-point gap between Calgary and Halifax, 8 games to go. I don't know if we talk about, is the playoff push possible at this point? I don't think it is, but they have brought the gap down a little bit.
Yeah, I think that that's still a bit of a stretch. They basically have to run the table or come pretty close to doing that. And as well as they've been playing, I don't think that that's a reasonable expectation. There's these other teams, they're going to get their wins, they're going to get points. So, but I don't want to sound like a wet blanket. This is the best this team has played really since probably the end of last season. So let's just enjoy it as it goes, and we'll see how it goes on a week-to-week basis.
Hello, this is Joey Plenzik, and you're listening to YYC Soccer Podcast.
As mentioned, the Canada West season got underway this afternoon. Big matchup between last year's champions, the Mount Royal University Cougars, and the University of Calgary Dinos, who I believe finished second in the Prairie Division, Jason. They also had a really strong 2025. I was hoping to catch this one. I really wanted to be at McMahon Stadium. And I wish I was, because it was probably one of the best attended games in Calgary University soccer history. More than 1,700 fans came to this game.
Yeah, that's a great number. Kudos to the fans who made it out. It was a nice enough day, and they got to witness, I think, what you would consider to be a bit of an upset.
Yes, a 2-0 win for the Dinos, factoring in last year, or the last couple of years rather, that I would consider that an upset. But we'll have to wait and see. I think both of these teams are actually going to be very evenly matched this campaign. But fans got to see, a fantastic goal, Jason. I don't know if you've seen it on the Dinos' social media accounts yet, but Jacob Hunter actually got things going in this game with a bicycle kick goal, assisted by our podcast guest, Joey Plenzik. And then they doubled their lead shortly after the hour mark with a goal from, I believe, debutant first-year player Luis Rangel Kataev.
Yeah, he's a former Cavalry Academy player, I believe.
Yeah, I haven't seen his goal yet, but I was reading the post-game article on the Dinos website and asked about the game. Head coach Ramon Mifflin called it an amazing battle, and he noted that he has a roster built around a lot of young talent. He said his message is to fight, have fun, have joy, have personality, have presence, and good things will happen. Pretty succinct quote.
Yeah, so maybe that's actually a good segue into our interview for our U Sports segment. We interviewed Joey Plenzik, who assisted on the first goal. He is a fifth-year player for the Dinos. And when we talked to him, he did spend a lot of time talking about being a veteran, being a leader, setting the tone, that sort of things. So let's run that interview now. I'd like to welcome Joey Plenzik to the podcast. Joey is a fifth-year player for the University of Calgary Dinos. And he's also been playing for the Blizzard in the APL the last couple of years. Joey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We always tend to like to start with the first question, just giving us a bit of your background. Like, I know you're from Calgary originally, just sort of growing up soccer experience and to this point in your career.
I've been kicking a ball ever since I can remember. I grew up playing Calgary Blizzards throughout my youth, all the way up until 14 or 15 years old. And then I transitioned to New Frontier Soccer Club. I also had a stint with the Calvary Under-20 team for summer during COVID, unfortunately, which kind of ruined the experience, but still a good experience nevertheless. And then, obviously, I played Foothills a couple of years during the exhibition seasons of League One Alberta, and then I moved back to Blizzards. And I'm also played to the University of Calgary throughout my university career.
And I want to ask you about position. This was something before I hit the record button, we kind of briefly touched on it, but what's your preferred position? Like, I know you've been playing mostly defender, but just talk about where you've been playing, what your preferred position is, and where you expect you'll be playing this year.
Yeah, I grew up playing as a 6, like throughout my entire career. And then I went to the University of Calgary, and as a rookie, just got thrown into center back due to personnel reasons. All of our center backs left the year before, and it was kind of like a sink or swim moment. They threw me into the deep end, and I figured it out. So I've been playing center back like the past 5 years. And now this season, again, we lost all of our starting midfield at the university. Marco, Sully, and Greco all left, all graduated. So I might be moving back into like a CDM role this year.
Regarding sort of training, because your training is well underway at this point as we record this, how's everything gone so far? Anything different this year as opposed to other years, or?
Training's been quite standard, I would say. Like, August is obviously tough. You get ran into the ground during preseason. We just came back from Kelowna, our preseason trip. It was good showing. We have a decent amount of injuries, so we didn't take, like, our strongest squad, but it's also a good opportunity for the rookies and some of the second years who haven't played yet to showcase themselves in Kelowna. So it was a good opportunity. We also got, a big coaching staff this year. My brother is back on the coaching staff, Marco Plenzik, same with James Greco-Taylor. They're graduated last year and now they're coming back to help coach. We also just had Elijah Adekube join us, so he's going to bring good experience. So yeah, training's been good so far.
You've played for the most part, I think, with your brother throughout your career, and this is really going to be the first year in a while where you're not going to be playing together. So how does it feel playing with your brother all these years at this high level, and how does it feel now that you're not going to be playing with him?
When I was playing with my brother, there was always like this like sense of connection, right? You have a comfortability when you have someone you know, someone you're close to, someone you're literally related to on the team. So we always had like this good chemistry, always bounced ideas off of one another, like how tactics work, how positioning works, all that. And yeah, it's gonna be different without my brother, can't lie. I haven't It's been 4 years since I've played a game without him in it, so we'll figure it out together, I guess. But yeah, I mean, he's still around. He's still involved in the coaching staff, so it's good to have a familiar face around.
I did want to talk about, the connection between the APL Blizzard and the Dinos. Like, essentially, you guys play together, the core of this team. You play together all year long. So what's that like? Like, I'm guessing that the camaraderie is good, but even just there's a lot of shorthand by just playing together for that length of time. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, like Ramon's both like the coach of the Blizzard APL team and Dinos, so he kind of like it's basically been the same team for the past 2 years. And it's been awesome. When you play with the same players, like, over and over, you just, like, know each other's attributes, you know each other so well. The chemistry is there, everything ticks. It's very, like, organized, it's very structured, everyone knows a role, everyone has a role. It's just so easy to play. And then, yeah, first day of preseason this year, I was looking around at the squad, and it looks like a whole new different team. And yeah, first preseason game, like you could just like feel like the difference in like the disorganization and stuff. And it's gonna take a while for us to get clicking, I feel, but it's been good. We've been improving each and every game. So
I wanted to get back to talking about that Canadian Championship game versus CF Montreal because you were on that trip. I just wanted to hear you talk about that. I'm sure it was a really cool experience. And what are some of your best memories about it? Just talk about it in general.
that trip felt like surreal to me. The first 5 minutes, I felt like I was like in a FIFA game. Like they were just zipping the ball around, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like I'm chasing shadows out here. The World Cup like introduced the ref cam, and like you get to see like the how quick it is on the field. That's how it felt. It felt like I was watching the game through the ref cam. Like there's a gap. We were quite naive and ignorant, and we were like, oh, maybe we can give them a game, maybe we can do it. No, there's a pretty big gap between like the MLS and the other levels I've played at. So yeah, it was. Nevertheless, it was amazing. We got beat 5-0 and we were like smiling in the change room after. We were like, that was the coolest moment of our lives, hands down.
So this is your fifth year with the club. So how does it feel to be like, I think you probably were already considered one of the veteran leaders even last year, but now definitely, are you comfortable in having that mantle of being a veteran and leader? And yeah, talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, I feel old, first of all, as a fifth year. I was like, holy, these guys. I'm like, what year were you born? 2008? I'm like, holy, feel old. But no, nevertheless, yeah, it's been good. Like, my past years at Dinos, even like last year was my fourth year, we still had like a lot of seniors. We like lost like 6 seniors last year. So there was always like experience around. And now like I'm kind of excited to like step up and have like my own like leadership group like supporting me and be like the main source of experience, the main source of like dictation towards the team to like push the team in the right direction. I feel like experience goes a long way in sports, in the sports league. So yeah, I feel like I'm ready.
When you talk about the experience in youth sports, I've talked to people in the past and they kind of say that, the first couple years, it's you kind of need to really get even into that third year before you really kind of have that experience and feel comfortable. What would be your comment about that? Agree, disagree, or?
Yeah, no, U Sports is like, first of all, it's an extremely tough league and it's very good. I got very lucky when I went into Dinos that they lost a bunch of fifth years the year I went in. So I played as a rookie, but I know a lot of people don't play as a rookie just because, like, that's just like the luck of the draw, you know? Sometimes you come in and the squad has a bunch of fourth and fifth years and you just don't see the field and you don't experience anything. You're not on trips, you're just coming to train. It's very tough for those players. It's just unlucky. It's just how it is. So I feel like experience does go a long way. If you have a good core of seniors, your team will be good because you guys know, like, you know how to get through the shit games. You know how to hold a lead. You know how it feels when you wake up Monday morning, you can't feel your legs. Like, you know, you just know how it's going to be. And it does help a lot, in my opinion.
As you mentioned, the team has lost some players, but as happens every year at the U Sports level. But what are the team's expectations for this year? Like, what kind of goals have you set? And then, talk about that.
Obviously, every team in the league has like the same goal. It's just to win the banner, right? So that's obviously like the main goal. But like a secondary goal that I've kind of like proposed to the team is like we are going to be tough to beat. I want to be like a hard, like gritty team. Like I want teams to play us and know that this is going to be a struggle. We are going to get worked, you know? I don't want to be like some pushover, rollover team where like, on your schedule, like this should be 3 points. I want to be the team that like people circle on their calendar and they're like, oh shit, we got to play the Dinos next year or tomorrow. So yeah, that's like the main goal of this year's be tough, be hard to beat.
Are there any particular opponents or games that you're really looking forward to this season? I think there's always a few rivalry games which get a little bit of extra attention, but anyone you want to mention?
Yeah, obviously like the MRU one stands out. Obviously, like that's always the one I look forward to. We also go away to UBC this year, and I've never beat UBC, so I really want to give them a game and like make a statement.
As far as for yourself, though, do you have any specific personal goals, expectations for this in your fifth year, like that you're looking at?
To be honest, like I'm mainly focused on the team. If we are winning games and I'm sitting on the bench, like I actually don't care. Like I'll gladly sit on the bench as long as we're doing well. But as like on a personal level, I do want to be like a good mentor to like the younger boys because like I feel like it's very important that these years you build success for the next upcoming years. And like teams don't get good in one year and then turn to shit the next, right? It's like a constant graduated process. And under Ramon, since he's took over, like we've been a great team. I don't want that to end under my leadership, under my watch. So I want to be a good mentor. I want the next year Dinos and the future Dinos to like be up to par, up to standard.
I did want to give you an opportunity before we do wrap things up. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything, any shout outs you want to? Yeah, the floor is yours here to sort of wrap things up.
No, I would say try to come and support us. If anyone's listening to this who's a Dinos alumni or Dinos fan, come support us as much as you want because the crowd does help and it is nice to have.
We should probably mention that the national rankings and the Canada West rankings came out prior to the game today. And I think part of the reason I suggested that this match was an upset was MRU is ranked number 5 nationally right now. And in the Canada West coaches poll, MRU is also a few notches ahead of the Dinos.
Yeah, they're ranked number 2 at the moment, while the Dinos are ranked number 5. So both in the top 5, which is cool to see as a Calgary soccer fan. I would have to assume that UBC is ranked number 1.
Correct.
No surprise there. But yeah, I'm really intrigued by this year's Canada West Conference and whether MRU can continue this fantastic run of form that they've been on for these last 3 seasons now.
We do have one more U Sports topic to talk about. And this was, again, one of those opportunities where your day job and your podcast job intertwined again with a story about Mount Royal.
Yeah, I think this time it was probably me shoehorning my podcast job, as you call it, into my day job. But I wanted to do a story about Mount Royal's recent stadium field upgrades because that's something we've talked about on the podcast. And they finally have completed that project. And I haven't seen it in person yet, but it looks pretty awesome, Jason. The new turf field at MRU is completed. I got some answers from the university about how much was spent and what was done. So put together a story for the Herald. Also interviewed our former podcast guest, Ryan Jackie, about it. Yeah, I mean, a $2 million project, and it's a lot more than just, newly installed artificial turf. They have fencing around the perimeter of the field, so the ball no longer gets kicked onto the Mount Royal Gate Road. They have a new sound system. They have a new scoreboard and video board. So it was a pretty impressive overhaul that MRU was able to complete. And maybe one of the best things about this is that the community will be able to rent it. So before the pitch was kind of, exclusive to MRU games primarily. But now I think we're going to see more and more happening at Stadium Field, whether it be Alberta Premier League games in the future or youth games. It's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. I was thinking we were going to see some Alberta Premier League games there this summer, but that never really happened. But I think it's a really valuable addition to the infrastructure in Calgary from a sports stadium standpoint, and we're sorely lacking that infrastructure. This is a step in the right direction, obviously. Also, one more thing to mention is Mount Royal will now be charging for games.
Yeah, that is, I guess, the one drawback of this project is that to kind of help generate revenue to maintain the new field, they are going to be charging for tickets this season, which I don't think they've done in the past. It's relatively affordable. I think it's $10 for the general public, $5 for youth under 17, 6 and under get in for free. I think seniors get a discount, and then alumni as well. And then MRU students and employees can watch for free. So it's not exorbitant, but you do have to shell out a few bucks if you want to catch a game in person on this pitch this season.
So it's going to be a little while before we get a chance to see the field in action. And as the first match there will be in a couple weeks, it's going to be on September 11th. The men's team is going to play, and there is going to be ceremony and pageantry of some sort, some kind of opening ceremony and stuff. So coming up in a couple weeks.
Very professional looking, and something that I think reflects the growth of the Cougars program. If you think about the fact that they only joined U Sports in 2012 or 13, and since then they've won a couple of Canada West banners in the men's division, and they also have been to nationals, made it to the final last year. So this is a field befitting of one of the top university soccer programs in Canada.
Hi, this is Jess Whyte, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, let's move over to the other post-secondary league that we follow, and that's the ACAC. Matches both the men's and women's divisions for both Calgary schools are happening this weekend.
Yeah, SAIT will be hosting the Red Deer Kings and Queens Saturday afternoon. Men kick off at 2:15. The women kick off at noon. On the women's side, this is, a matchup between, I think, the two strongest teams in the ACAC South Division last year, maybe even the last 2 years. I believe Red Deer was the only team that really gave SAIT a decent game. Everyone else, they kind of pummeled. Great way to get things going, playing against your main division rival. And then Ambrose is going to be facing Lethbridge Polytechnic down in Lethbridge Saturday with kickoffs at the same time. The women play at 12 and the men play at 2:15.
And then Ambrose will have their second doubleheader of matches on Sunday, and those will be back here in Calgary. They'll be playing Olds College, women at 12 noon and the men at 2:15.
I guess now is a good time to introduce our other interview guests this week, Jason. Jess Whyte, who we had on the podcast back in 2023, makes her return to the YYC Soccer Podcast, and this time she's joined alongside her SAIT Trojans player, Amy Fallows, who we believe is going to be either captain or co-captain this season.
Yeah, so let's run the interview now.
I'd like to welcome Jessica Whyte back to our podcast. Some longtime listeners may recall Jessica was on our podcast in 2023 when she was the assistant coach of the SAIT Trojans women's team. Now she's taking the helm as the head coach. Jess, welcome back to our podcast. It's been a minute.
Thanks for having me. Very excited.
So let's start with your new role with the Trojans? Obviously, you've been with the program for a long time, but you're taking over from John Tallarico, who was in that position for a long time. You're also coming back from maternity leave. So, I mean, how are things going? How has it been?
It's been great so far. It's obviously, a very exciting mixed with nerves new role, but I've been very lucky to work alongside John, like you mentioned, the past 5 or 6 years, and he's still a big mentor kind of behind the scenes for me as well. But it's been a very exciting preseason and nice to be back into the thick of things as a new mom. Balancing that role has had its challenges, but the girls have been amazing, and my little guy is with me on the sidelines more than I'd like to admit.
We also have Amy Fallows with us today. She is a veteran player with the club. Thanks for joining us, Amy. I have a question for you actually right now. Well, really both of you could answer this, but I just thought I'd direct it to you. Thoughts so far about preseason? How have preparations been coming along? First matches are this weekend.
Super excited for Saturday. We're playing Red Deer, who is one of our biggest competitions within the South. So, yeah, just really been preparing. Really, this year we're really focusing on like a collective group, more like a grit almost. Lots of talent, lots of new faces. It's looking strong, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the game goes this weekend. We've done a lot of preparation, and the preseason went awesome. So yeah, now it's just got to go play now.
And I'll ask you a question as well, Amy, which is about the team's playing style and tactics. Obviously, that can shift on a game-to-game basis, but we've gotten used to seeing SAIT dominate a lot of the regular season games. So, I mean, coming into a new season, how do you feel the team is looking? And you don't have to disclose formations or anything like that, but like, what are you playing style and strategy?
Just think about like playing style strategy wise. I won't reveal too much. Obviously, I don't think Jess would be too happy with me there, but I would say it's coming to like the small little moments when it comes to strategy wise. Again, going on that point I was saying about the grit, we're just really focusing on giving 100% to each play and really encouraging each other and just letting each other know it's okay to make mistakes and really using we're really quite fit this year as a team. So, and really been pushing our fitness. So I think that playing style, meaning that the full 90, we're giving 100%. And yeah, just getting lots of goals and just really focusing on what Jess is telling us to do. And it's really refreshing as well to have Jess as a coach. So I think this year we're switching it up a little bit, but don't want to say too much, but there's definitely lots to come, which is exciting.
So Jess, we've seen the roster listed online. Couple names on there, familiar names like Amy, a couple new names. Can you talk a little bit about who we can expect to see out there on the pitch? I know you have at least one player who's got a bit of an NCAA background.
It's a different squad this year. We obviously had some big names graduate last year. Aaron, Nikki, and Meg were some of our big graduates. But obviously we've got some of our returning players, Amy, Rochelle, and Gabby. Those are kind of players that have been playing in the ACAC for the past 3 or maybe even 4 seasons. So those would be some great leadership, as well as Sophia Pena. And then we do actually have a transfer from the States. So she actually comes from Calgary, so she's back in Calgary. So that's very exciting. And then we also have lots of young new recruits who are really gearing and ready to go. So it should be an exciting season, how to kind of play as a collective and how it will all come together.
Jess, I wanted to ask another question kind of about John Tallarico. How much would you say his system and philosophy have you kind of maintained as you take over from him?
I would say a good chunk. John and I are very similar in terms of our coaching styles. These are people first versus players first. So we really try to connect with them, as people and create a great culture off the field, which then we feel brings, the on the field success. So, I would say we're very similar in that standpoint. We also like to possess the ball and like to score goals. So, you'll see kind of that same familiarity this season.
Amy, let's talk about from your standpoint with this group. Like, you're one of the veteran players on the team, part of the leadership group. How does it feel to be in that position? How do you like being one of the veteran players on the team?
I'm honestly honored. I did graduate from my degree last year, and so this year was more of a choice for me to come back. But it absolutely was. I have no regrets with it. It's especially in women's sport, you can kind of fall out of love if you don't love the team, the coach, the players, and like Jess was talking about, that culture that we have off the field, it's indescribable. Just being a leader, it doesn't even take much within the team. We all have the same like viewpoints with a lot of things. So I think coming back this year is more of it. Just let's keep going, let's push within the team, and Yeah, the leadership group. I'm honored. Honestly, you should have seen me my first year. It was a difficult task for me to. I'm more of a silly person. I like to be a little silly off and on the field, but it's kind of captured me to be more of a role model, especially for these younger players coming in, just showing them that it's possible to enjoy the college sport as well as play it as well as you can at that level as well. It doesn't have to just be very serious all the time.
Mhm. Can you guys talk about overall goals for this season? I think the last 2 years there was a lot of similarities, like utter dominance throughout the regular season, but then something happening in the postseason. And having not watched those games, I can't really say what that was. But maybe could you, Amy and Jess, could you maybe answer that question of what will it take to kind of overcome that hump that the team has experienced in the playoffs the last few seasons?
I think as a coach, we've learned a lot about those moments and how we kind of maybe prepared for those moments, even, from the very beginning of preseason. I'd say, a goal this year is we're a collective unit, no matter who is or isn't on the pitch. How we play is a collective, and our game style, our game model, everybody understands the roles and responsibilities within it so that everyone feels prepared and doesn't feel like it's a bit of a different game no matter the pressure of the environment. I think, there's always a bit of a target on our back or I guess favorites, considering our history. But for us, it's about, training and playing, as if we aren't the favorites and making sure that we've crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's before we kind of look ahead and see what those big long-term goals or starred competitions.
Again, I know, Jess, we are really focusing on the collective group mindset, but I think that obviously you can look at every individual player on our team. The talent is definitely there, but especially in such a short college season, talent can only take you so far. It's just that grit and that 75 plus minutes, getting past those and putting in like what effort and what discipline do you have to get past those humps within the game when you're tired. And even if we get scored on late in the game, how do we respond? And it's just, I think that's very important going into this year as well.
What message would you like to give to fans of SAIT athletics and soccer as you embark on the new season, and maybe an opportunity to plug the team, talk about where to get tickets or where the games are? I think most people know, but yeah, anything you guys would like to add, feel free.
Always love the support and fans at our games. All of our games are free. Our home openers this Saturday, so we hope to see as many supporting players and alumni and parents and all of that there. And we play on the turf field that's actually on the SAIT campus, which overlooks the city. It has a great view, and it's a wonderful place to be on a Saturday at 12.
It's also all of our games our home games are live streamed on YouTube as well. So if you can't make it, if you're out of town, you can always support online as well.
Thank you so much, Amy and Jess, for being on the podcast this week, and best of luck this weekend and for the rest of the season and beyond. We'll obviously be paying attention like we always do, and we look forward to seeing how it goes. And thanks again for taking our questions today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.
First match for the men and women will be against Red Deer, as you mentioned. And yeah, this is going to be a bit of a revenge match for them. As you mentioned, Red Deer has played them really tough, and Red Deer beat them out in the bronze medal match last year in the championship.
Yeah, kind of unexpected considering how dominant SAIT had been all throughout the regular season. Kind of a disappointing way to finish the campaign, losing to Red Deer in that bronze medal game. The fact that they didn't make it to the gold medal game, I think, was the first disappointment, and then losing for bronze was the second one. So I'm sure SAIT, as Jess alluded to in the interview, have had a lot of conversations about those games and what it will take mentally to avoid similar outcome this time around. This is Scott Strasser, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, last topic for tonight on a jam-packed episode. We're going to talk about the PDP Championships that are happening right now in Montreal.
Yeah, these are essentially the national championships for the U17 and U15 age groups. Decent Calgary representation this year, Jason. Foothills and Rangers competing in Montreal in the girls U17 division. Couple of wins, couple of losses so far. And then on the men's side, for the first time, I think, in club history, Mackenzie United has sent a club to nationals competing in the boys U17 tournament. And then in U15, a Southwest United boys team is competing as well.
In the U15 girls, Calgary's representation is Rangers.
I guess we can rattle off their results because some games have already been played as of recording. Where do you want to start?
Why don't we start with the girls U17, because that is the one division where it could be plausible that a Calgary team could win it. In most of the other divisions, I don't think there's much chance. Even here, it's probably a bit of a stretch, but it's possible at least.
Yeah, so let's start with Rangers. They began their tournament with a loss to Surrey United of BC. They lost that game 2-1, but they rebounded to beat AS Laval 1-0. And then on Friday, they're going to play Vaughan at Surrey from Ontario. And they can play for the championship if they win against Vaughan and if Surrey United and AS Laval draw, or if AS Laval wins, depending on the tie-breaking rules.
I don't know how the tie-breaking rules work, but yeah, it is possible. It's one of those things where a whole bunch of things have to happen. And the other Calgary participant for girls U17 is Foothills. And they've had a bit of a rough go of it. They lost to Burnaby FC 2-0, and they lost to Spécial CS Saint-Hubert from Quebec 4-1. They play Woodbridge on Friday.
And then in the boys U17 division, Mackenzie United lost their first national game against Woodbridge Soccer Club 2-0. And then they drew Fusion FC from Richmond. Jason, do you know if that's Richmond, BC or Ontario?
BC.
They drew Fusion FC 0-0, and then they play CS Saint Laurent on Friday. That's a familiar name.
Definitely. There are a couple of familiar names in all these matchups. CS Saint Laurent is one of them, and the other one that keeps coming up is Woodbridge. I think they're represented in at least 3 of the 4 divisions, and I think maybe even all 4 of them.
And then in the boys U15 tournament, Southwest United, they lost to AS Laval 4-2. And they also lost their second game of the Nationals to Coquitlam Metro Ford 3-0. And they will play Woodbridge on Friday.
And for the girls U15, the Calgary Alberta representative is Rangers. Their first match, they lost to Pickering FC 6-0. Then they drew Langley United 0-0. And their final match is against CS Union Lanaudière Sud. I should have left that one for you somehow, Scott.
Lanaudière Sud, I would guess. Must be that.
So that's their final match. And I think it is possible that they could still potentially play for a championship if many, many things happen. I think that one's even less likely than the other one, but I think they're not mathematically eliminated from that one quite yet.
But regardless, huge accomplishment to get this far. To make it to Nationals is a big deal. And congrats to all the Calgary teams, and best of luck with their last couple of games, however many there may be.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the YYC Soccer Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, so new episodes are waiting for you as soon as they're released. Visit yycsoccer.com for our complete archive and links to purchase Scott's book, Here Come the Cavalry. It's all about the history of professional soccer in Calgary. We love your feedback. Leave us a question on the website, connect with us on X, Instagram, or Blue Sky at YYC Soccer 403. If you have a moment, please leave us a review. It really helps other fans discover the show. We'll be back soon with more stories from Calgary's soccer community. Until next time, keep supporting local soccer, and we'll see you at the match.